Hello and welcome to today's episode of Platinum Talks Wealth. Emmy-nominated journalist Jennifer Rogers Markwell changed gears in her television career when she realized the need to help women make sense of investing. She regularly hosts educational workshops to empower women and others to take charge of their financial future. Now, join your host, Platinum Wealth Management President Jennifer Rogers Markwell, as she leads us into the world of money memories, money infidelities, and how these can mold our relationship with our personal finances as adults. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hi, it's Jennifer Rogers Markwell, and you're joining us on the Platinum Talks Wealth podcast. Today, I'm joined by Cosey Gibson. Cosey, thanks for making time.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, we've been saying this for a while, so I'm so glad.
I know.
So Cosey is a wealth advisor on my team. But again, I want her to do the podcast with me and share her experiences. So Cosey, tell us all about who you are and why you do what you do.
Yeah. So like Jennifer said, my name's Cosey Gibson, now Cosey Gibson McElroy, as I just got married, and I'm a wealth advisor on the Platinum Wealth Management team. It's been about, a year and a half now, a year of being licensed, and I have loved every single moment of it. I met Jennifer, 2 years ago when I was really going through a transition period. I called it my quarter life crisis. I was working a job that I didn't love at the time. I had been working this job for about 4 years. It was a great job, great money. I was enjoying it for the most part. And then COVID hit. And like so many people, it was all kind of flipped on its head. So I got furloughed for a couple of months. I say the best couple months of my life because I got to live my best furloughed COVID life. But then when I hopped back into work, we just got slammed and I got burnt out so quickly because I had seen the flip side. I had seen what my life was like without that job. And then hopping back into it, it hit me like a Mack truck. And I remember January realizing this isn't what I want to do. Meanwhile, I had gotten engaged and my husband and I were looking to start our own business. And I kind of saw this fork in the road where I could do what I was doing. I didn't really see the forward progression of where my next steps were, but I was making good money and it seemed like a good situation I could be in. But then at the same time, my husband and I knew we were going to start a family and we were kind of birthing our first baby of starting a business that I really couldn't be present for because I was over here working 14, 16-hour days. And so he was really building our business for himself. And so I decided this was not going to be the job for me. And I knew I wanted to do something else, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. My skills wouldn't really transfer because at the time I was doing orthopedic medical device sales. And where else can you walk someone through reconstructing an ACL unless you move to a different company, which some people do, but I wanted out. I wanted out. I did not want to step foot in an operating room ever again. So I started to kind of look back and see, well, what are the kind of intangible skills that I have? Not the, knowing the devices, knowing the anatomy, but what are the other things I've learned, which really boiled down to relationship building, trust building, confidence, being able to tell a surgeon, you're not doing this correctly. And so I started to kind of make a mental list of what those skills were. And at that time, I was kind of telling everybody except for my coworkers that I was looking for a new job. So give me your input. You know me. What do you think I should do? And that's when a family friend told me, you should look into wealth management. It's a great field. It's a lifelong career. It's very good for young females as well, because there's a lot of people getting out of the field. So it's the perfect time for you to hop right in. And it could kind of be right place, right time situation. And so at first I kind of hemmed and hawed over it because I really didn't know what that meant. As I'm sure a lot of people don't when you hear the term wealth advisor, financial advisor, right? And so I decided to just talk to advisors in my town and really hear from them. What does the job look like? What do you like? What do you not like? What does the day look like? I knew I could Google the job description, but it wouldn't give me the real kind of feel of what the job entailed. And so I met with tons of advisors in my town, and they all said, hey, they love what they do, but not for the reasons that you would think. They loved the relationship building. They loved being a part of their clients' lives and being that first phone call when their clients were going through major life things, marriage, babies, death, divorce, everything in between. And that is what resonated with me. And I thought, okay, I know how to build relationships and I actually really enjoy it. So it seemed like a perfect transition. Of course, I had those limiting beliefs of I have my master's in conservation and ecology. I'm in the medical field. So who am I to kind of move over to this completely new field? And that's really where you, Jennifer, stepped in because I met you and you allowed me this space to see that I could do this. And it wasn't, again, like, those front facing skills that you would think you need for the job, but it's caring about people. It's about kind of having that emotional intelligence and it's about being responsible and holding yourself responsible too. So you gave me the opportunity to join Platinum. And like I said, I have never looked back. So I love what I do today because I really get to educate and empower people, particularly when it comes to finances, because whether you have $1,000 or $100,000, you have the same insecurities. People still don't think it's enough. So, really being able to empower people and show them that that is enough, you are enough, and here's a strategy for you is what I look to do.
I knew the second I met you, and our circumstances are interesting. So I actually met Cozy through another advisor who, again, I didn't want to step on toes in case he wanted to hire her, but I knew her the first time I met her. Like when you and I sat down, I knew you were so heart centric in what you were sharing, and you had just such a great spark about you that I knew you would be fantastic in this industry because your heart was on your sleeve and you cared
Yes.
and you wanted to do the right things for the right reasons. And you wanted to learn. And it was just so exciting seeing that in you and being able to, watch you evolve and grow into the, wealth advisor that you are now.
Well, thank you. Jennifer and I could probably gush all day long.
Now, and I think that, I mean, from my perspective, I'm so grateful. Like, I feel like our team is built with people and women who have the same mindset, right? Who
Yeah.
care, want to do the right things for the right reasons, and who, really are here to serve. Like, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Totally. And I think you and I talk about too, it's not just a 9 to 5 job, but this is really like interwoven in our DNA that, we just want to help. Right. And that's where it stems back to asking the question that we start every meeting with, which is, how can I help?
Yeah, which I think is the biggest question. I mean, we know how to help and guide, folks in the right direction depending on what their goals are. But what is important to that person in that moment of what is their most immediate need? Right.
Right.
And only they know that. And our job is to listen and hear that and help support along the way. And I think one thing too that I'm gonna toot our horn on is I feel like we are really good at lifting each other so we can lift our clients.
Yeah.
Right. So behind the scenes with the scenes with the team, like it's how can we support each other? If somebody's out or something's going on, everyone will rally to be like, okay, yeah, I'll take that. I can help with that. I can help with this. Right. And I watch that and it's awesome. And I'm so proud of that. But then I watch how that 100% evolves into how do we serve our clients? How do we serve our clients? We're serving each other, we're serving our clients along the way, and we're lifting as we go, which is so beautiful. So
I know.
beautiful.
I love it. And I think, yeah, heart centric is really the term we use a lot to describe what we do and really approaching people, whether it's clients or each other, but approaching them as people because they are people. And why not treat them that way? Right. Because I want to be treated like a person. not like a number, not like an employee, but as the person that I am.
You
And
said something earlier too about, again, wherever you're at, we want to meet you. And I think that's been something that we've all had is a similar thread is knowing and serving everyone and letting everyone know that they deserve a seat at the table no matter where they're at in their financial journey. You know, if you're starting out with $1,000, you're starting out with $30 million, right? Everyone deserves a seat at the table to be able to, really reach their financial goals and stretch for their financial goals, whatever that looks like.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the team. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for the opportunity and just kind of seeing the potential in me because it's not a lot of people take the time to do that, but you did. And I'm so grateful. And now I have a lifelong career and lifelong friends.
Well, I was going to say you're a lifer. You're a life, and it's a lifestyle, right? This is a total engrossing
Definitely.
lifestyle where, however your life evolves, whatever that looks like, and it's the same with like financial planning too. I hate to make that comparison there, but it's so true because we have our roadmap in place of what things look like. Life is going to evolve many, many, many times. We were just talking to a client about that same thing yesterday and talking through of like, no matter where you're at now and decisions you make now, it's going to change. Life will look different. Life's going to throw you curveballs, whatever that looks like. But same thing on our career path. This will change and evolve and keep changing, but I'm so glad to have you as part of the team.
Thank you. Well, I'm so grateful.
Yeah. And this is how we talk normally too, which
I
is
know.
um so on the podcast, you've been listening to it for a while and I appreciate the
Yes.
support there. So one thing we talk through is money memories. What's a money memory that you had as a younger person or as a child that helped mold your relationship to money as an adult?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this and I've been thinking about it for a while, just knowing that one day we were going to talk about it. And I was so fortunate and am still so fortunate to grow up in a very financially literate household. My parents are entrepreneurs. My mom went to the Indiana University Kelley School of Business, one of the best in the country. My grandpa was the president of the hometown bank. My grandma's an entrepreneur. So financial conversations were just kind of interwoven in our regular conversations because there was always this belief of, sharing and wanting each other to do better. But growing up in this financially literate household, I still had to do chores, but my parents didn't make it easy. So instead of just handing me cash for, you know, cleaning my room or blowing leaves, they would give me poker chips. And I thought it was the coolest thing because as a kid, you're like, ooh, poker chips. This is so adult and mature and they're colorful and they sound really nice when they like all clink together. And I loved these poker chips. And so what I did was I made a little box and I drew, little poker chips on the box. I made a slit that was the size of the poker chips. And so every time they went to pay me for my chores, they would hand me poker chips and I would just listen to them clink into the little box. And it was really smart on my parents' behalf because they would tell me, when you're ready to redeem these for cash, you can and we'll give you the cash value for the poker chips. And I knew, 50 cents, a dollar, $2, $5, and what every color correlated to. But I loved the poker chips so much and I loved having them and seeing them and just like rushing my hand through them that I never cashed them in. And it gave me so much more joy to see them in front of me than to ever trade them out for money because I thought, well, what's going to give me more joy than my little poker chips? And honestly, I cannot remember ever cashing them in unless it was for something small. And I think one day my mom finally said, okay, let's take your box and we'll create a savings account for you. And I thought, oh, well, that's not as fun, but at least instead of my box of poker chips, now I can see it, in a bank account and kind of have that reassurance that it's there waiting for me as well. And so that's kind of trickled into my adulthood because I like seeing the money in my account and not having to wonder, you know, what is tomorrow going to look like? Am I going to be strapped? And so I set forth a lot of strategies to make that happen because that gives me peace of mind seeing that a particular dollar amount.
You are listening to the Platinum Talks Wealth podcast.
Hey, it's Jennifer. I wanted to take a quick break to remind you that you are worthy to have a seat at the table when it comes to money and your finances. Both me and my team at Platinum Wealth Management, want to meet you where you are, whether you're starting out, starting over, or have been investing for years. Reach out to us at platinumwealth.net or call us at 775-717-0001. We'd be honored to help.
And now, back to the podcast.
And for everyone, it's different, right? But for me, I have a threshold, and seeing that sitting there is the same feeling as seeing my poker chips sitting in front of me.
So, kind of your poker chips are like your emergency money?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about this a few times on the podcast. So minimum, bare minimum, right? 3 months is what you should have emergency money of what your monthly expenses are. I find a lot of people have 6 months to a year, or like you had said, what's that magical threshold that you have to have in your mind that helps you sleep better at night?
Yeah. Me and my poker chips. I mean, I can see the box, and every time I go home, I still look for that darn box because I'm curious how much money was in it. Probably like $20, but it was still really cool to me.
Are you going to do that with your little one? Same thing?
I think so. It gave me a lot of responsibility because I got to decide, when and where I wanted to use the money instead of grabbing it and maybe losing it or spending it on something small or insignificant. It made the decision a little bit bigger because I would have to give away my poker chips in exchange for the money, and then I'd have to go get whatever the thing was.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
we did something similar with Isa when she was little. We would have her like help out at client events or whatever. So she would get, an hourly rate for that. And then now she's working at the water park for her fun
Mhm.
summer job. And it's cute because she'll say, wow, and she gets it. She's like, what's a check? Like, they don't even get like what checks are, the younger generation. And she's like, how do I? I'm like, you take a picture of it, you deposit it. Here's what it looks like. She's like, okay. And then now she's like, oh, I really like these shorts, but that would be 5 hours of me working. So it's fascinating hearing her now correlate like the dollar amount into something tangible that she wants and realize how much work she would need to do for something.
Right. That's so important too, because, until you work and, you're held responsible, you don't know the true value of a dollar.
Yeah. There's a different respect when you earn it yourself.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
Of
So,
course.
yeah. So another thing we obviously talk about here are financial infidelities. And that can be a big, scary, hairy word to a lot of people. And quite frankly, I mean different things to different people as well. What are or some financial infidelities that you've experienced or that you've seen others that you think folks could learn from?
Yeah. So I think this also goes back to knowing the value of a dollar. And I'm an only child, so I did not grow up needing to share anything, which was great for me. Right. But that includes sharing money. So one thing that always kind of irks me and my husband is when we go out to dinner and, you'll go out to eat with a group of, I don't know, 8, 10 people. And I'm a salad and water girl. Like, I am a low budget date. I don't need a lot. I don't need like we were saying, tomahawk steak and the Caesar salad on the side of the table, like being made in front of you. And so I'm very frugal, even when it comes to eating out. But then the check comes and we always look at each other and are groaning when other people suggest, well, let's just split it 10 ways. And to me, that's obviously not fair because my meal was maybe $30. I didn't get the steak and the 2 glasses of wine and the salad. And so I feel like in those situations, I'm paying for your food, but I didn't get a say in that. I didn't make that decision. You did. I would rather just be accountable for me. And so now we bring cash or Venmo. I mean, that has been a great little assistance as well. But we know exactly how much we owe, tip included, tax on there, and that's what we pay. I'm not here to pay for anybody else's meal unless that's what I choose, right? But it's the assumption that always gets us because my husband is the same way. Like the value of a dollar is hugely important. Not that we couldn't pay for someone else's meal, but that's not what we decided. That's not how we chose to spend our money in that evening.
Yeah, and if you do, that's totally okay. But it's
Hey,
when somebody's living their best life at the other end of the table and you're like, "Hello, I had my little chicken salad and a glass
yeah,
of water, and lo and behold, now my bill is, 4 times what it should have been."
right. The
And
most expensive water I've ever bought.
yeah, and truly, okay if that's your choice, but come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a frustration. It's interesting. You're the first person that's shared that on the podcast.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
It's always one that kind of sticks out for me.
So true, though. I mean, I think all of us have experienced that at some time or another, and it gets frustrating. And then you find yourself getting frustrated with people because you're like, that's not thoughtful. That's not thoughtful.
Right.
If I'm offering, great, but let's be thoughtful.
Yeah. No assumptions, please.
Yeah. Yeah. And you shared another one that kind of goes hand in hand with this too.
Yes. So again, back to knowing the value of a dollar. And I very much know who owes me what. My husband and I joke because I pay for a lot of our trips. Um, but I keep a running tab for him and I don't let him get away with anything. And so we went on a friend's trip with a group of friends and I, prepaid for like Airbnb, airfare, things like that. With the promise that everyone was gonna pay me back, right? And this was a ton of time and effort and planning, and there's one friend who and this was, gosh, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. One friend who did not pay me back and actually just disappeared, and we have not seen him since, and I still know when he circles back around how much money he owes me from that trip because I felt slighted and a little bit taken advantage of. And financially, I that is a pet peeve that I cannot let go. I can let go a lot of things. Being slighted when it comes to money, not so much.
Yeah. And there's something about being thoughtful about what you're doing, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
you have a verbal contract in essence with people. Hey, here's what we're doing. Here's what this looks like. And being upfront and communicating that. And then when someone doesn't do their part or hold up to their side of the communication, so frustrating.
Totally.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, I'm still a little irked by it, but
Understandably.
he'll come back around and I'll know, and I'm not shy about it either.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that as well.
Sure.
So, as we start to wrap the conversation, one thing I always like to ask, what are tips and or tricks that you use to utilize money differently in your own household?
Yeah, I don't know if this is different, if a lot of people do this. It's not so common with my friends at least, but one thing that has really um been phenomenal for my relationship with my husband is we don't pool money, right? Because back to what you were sharing with Issa, we know how much time it takes to work for X number of dollars. And so we don't pool money. We're very Switzerland 50-50. However, we have a joint account that we both contribute the same dollar amount to every single month. And that's where our shared costs come from. So our mortgage, our utilities, Wi Fi, all of the common things that we spend money on are pulled from this account. And from there, if I want to go spend $500 on a shopping spree or he wants to go play 10 rounds of golf, that's up to us and that's out of our own individual bank accounts. But having that joint account has really been great for our relationship because there's no nitpicking, there's no resentment, there's no nickel and diming of, oh, well, you just went and bought clothes out of our money. Or I've heard this before from my friends, what are all of these Amazon packages that you ordered? Right. And so it just completely erases that. It takes it off the table. We know where each other stands. And then again, we can add more to that joint account. It can grow over time, but it just really meets those bare minimum costs and a little bit extra for like day nights or whatever. But it takes a lot of that background chatter that we can sometimes get when it comes to money. off the table. And so it just keeps things very clean, very even, very 50-50. And that has worked tremendously for us.
And I think even having, the communication, like I tease them like, "Ooh, it's a Friday night in our household. We're going to talk some finances."
Uh-huh.
Not that we always do, but same thing. Like I think being on the same page, talking things through, like my husband's a big boy, I'm a big girl. Like, I mean, we can, spend how we want to spend. But we also, same thing, shared expenses along the way. But if I'm going to buy something for myself or I want to buy something from him, I'm doing that from a separate account, right?
100%.
He does that same thing too, but we always meet in the middle and we can see each other's stuff. But at the end of the day, like we do have a very similar setup too. And I see it work for, couples. I also see, sometimes when they merge everything together, I think it's all about the commonality of having that really strong communication, just making sure you're on the same page, regardless of what that looks like.
And I think too, really knowing like your financial personality, because I knew if we were to pull money to pool it, that would not be okay with me. And I would be looking at every single thing and it would cause me so much more stress, emotion, resentment than if we were to just keep it clean. Again, it doesn't work for everybody, but that's what works for the both of us. And we, similar to you and Mark, we keep a very open dialogue when it comes to finances. Even my husband just bought a truck and he's trying to decide like whether to get this toolbox or this other thing. I listen, but when it comes to cars, that's a foreign language. And so we have these conversations of, okay, well, this is the dollar amount of this one. I could buy it used for this price. Well, I could, you know, instead get this feature taken away. And we just try and figure it out, but keep the conversation moving instead of hiding it or, the surprise package shows up on the doorstep or, having shame over a purchase and hiding the shopping bags in the closet. Like the inverse is actually true because we don't really spend. And so if I do go buy clothes or go on a shopping spree, I tell him, I'm like, Tyler, I went and bought something for myself today. And he celebrates with me. So it's special. But I think, knowing your financial personality and being true to yourself about it can play a huge role.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's fantastic advice. Just being impeccable with yourself along the way and whoever your partner is, and making sure that maybe if you're not on the same page, how do you navigate that together so it's healthy?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, Cozy, thank you as always for sharing. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you for having me on. And this was so fun.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, Platinum Talks Wealth, please subscribe and share. For more information about Jennifer Rogers Markwell or Platinum Wealth Management, please visit www.platinumwealth.net. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member of FINRA and SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. The guest speakers and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Platinum Wealth Management.